How do you stop developers from turning your small city into its own cash cow while they ruin your community that they claim to promise to improve? Well, that's simple. Elect people to your city council that will work for you and not the developer. It's time for some Straight Talk Texas. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Greetings, thrill seekers, music lovers, conversationalists from across the fruited plains of the great state of Texas. I am your host, Bunker Bob Steinhagen, bringing you an hour of unfiltered, unadulterated, and unapologetic conservatism to help make America and Texas great again. Now, I'm grateful to have you watching today via the Bunker Cam on Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook, and welcome my podcast listeners who are out walking, driving in their cars, or wherever they're listening via Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, and more than that. It is great to have you here with me today because what I'm going to be talking about is a local issue that a small little town of McLendon-Chisholm that I happen to know very well. I happen to know it because I happen to live in McLendon-Chisholm, and not only that, but I was elected to city council in 2016 or 15, and then became mayor of the city after the mayor was wanted to avoid the having to face criminal charges for violating the Texas Open Meetings Act. And then, of course, I went into office, and we changed a lot while I was there. Now, what's interesting and why this show is so important, I think, to many who are all over the state of Texas, is that this issue of developers basically controlling your city council and mayor is pervasive around the state of Texas. And there are some key players in this that are consistent all the way around. And I'm going to talk about those players and who you need to watch out for, because if you are someone who lives in a community where, like in McLendon-Chisholm, when I moved here, there was about 2,000 people. Now there's a little over 4,000. Well, there's more than that. There's probably 4,500. We're getting close to the magic 5,000 number when big government liberals can turn our little city into a home rule city. And that is a great thing for big government liberals. They love big government. If you like big government, then you want to become a home rule city, and that's exactly where they're headed. But what's happening here in the city of McLendon-Chisholm is something that could have been avoided, and it was avoided. It was avoided, and I'm going to show you and explain to you how what's happening now was avoided back when I was mayor. We avoided the very thing that we are facing now. And the difference is, I was a mayor who worked for the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm. We now have a mayor who is a tyrant mayor. He calls McLendon-Chisholm his city. I would never, ever say that as an elected official. No, anytime an elected official says that their city or their town is theirs, that is someone who has no business in that position. Now, the current mayor is someone who has worked for the government his entire life. He has never signed the front of a paycheck. He has never had to make a payroll. And now that he's mayor of this city, he thinks he's governor. As now he's mayor of this city, he works for another city, and he is mayor of this one. And The mindset of government employees is always the same. If you don't have enough money, you just tax people more. Because unlike in a business where you can control cost, where you watch cost, and if costs get overwhelming or they get out of control, you pull back, you cut, you make cuts, necessary cuts. Not so in government. In government, and I'm going to be highlighting what happens here in the little town of McLendon-Chisholm in a minute, or toward the end of the show. I'm going to focus on the very thing I'm talking about now. When government finds itself in peril financially, it doubles down. It doesn't reduce the size of government. It expands it and tries to make a case to citizens that this is necessary. This is necessary. If you've ever watched my show, if you're watching on the Bunker Cam now, you see a placard that is on my desk that was on my desk, was on the dais when I was mayor of McLendon-Chisholm. And it is a quote by William Pitt. And it is a quote that I basically hone my show around this idea that necessity is the plea of every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. William Pitt understood that whenever someone mouths the word necessary, if they are in government, they are speaking as a tyrant. And if they are a citizen, then they're speaking as a slave. I'll never forget just recently, last year or a year or 2 years ago now, our little city raised our tax rate unnecessarily, but they said it was necessary. And when I asked for specifics, why is it necessary? One of the council members, lying Lorna Kippett, a true Republican in name only, gave the answer that we need to put away money in savings, basically. We need to put some revenue aside in case we have an emergency. If a tornado were to hit the City Hall, a 5,000 square foot facility that costs $2.125 million, try to figure that one out. It's one of the reasons I became a member of City Council. But lying Lorna said, if our city hall is destroyed, how will we pay for it? We need money set aside. We need money in savings, if you will. This is the liberal mindset of how you are fiscally responsible. That's fiscal responsibility to a liberal. To a conservative, that's outrageous. I know how to spend my money better than the government does. And if the government ever does have a tornado that takes out the city hall, well, then my first question is, why the hell didn't the city have insurance like I do? And the answer is because they're fiscal idiots. So we put together a tax rollback initiative, and we just needed to get signatures. 10% of those voters who came out to vote in the last city election, just needed 10%. I went out and grabbed, I think, a good bulk of those signatures. Others did as well. And we turned those in, and that became a ballot initiative where citizens had the right to choose whether or not they wanted to roll back the tax rate that they had just raised. The thing is, for this little city, there was a budget surplus in the last budget that was realized, and a significant budget surplus, which gave the city 16 months of surplus to run its business should a disaster befall it. 16 months. They wanted to raise that they wanted to increase the tax rate so that they could have even more. And when it went on the ballot, and I did absolutely nothing. I campaigned not not a scintilla. I just let it sit there. I just wanted to see what would happen when it was on the ballot to raise and lower your tax. And then you know what they did this next year? The very next year, they lowered the tax rate, and they did away with any kind of trying to save money, try to put money aside for savings. But they did add an expenditure, a $500,000 expenditure, so that they could start a police department. I'll talk about that in a little while, which is the most insane. But it goes to my point. This is the way. This is government, big government, liberal mindset. This is how liberals think. They think so. They double down, and I'll talk about that. The police department in a bit. But before I do, I want to talk about this development, a development that is going into the city of McLendon-Chisholm and the city of Heath and in ETJ. Not quite in the ETJ, actually. There will be no ETJ in this development. And that's because the developers, this is the Huffines Development Group specifically. This is Trilogy, is what it's called. Now, this is a page from a presentation that the Huffines Development Group, Philip Huffines, he is, I believe, the brother, or he's related to the Huffines, that State Senator Huffines that ran for governor, the individual that I supported. I supported Senator Huffines, and I still do. And I still think Senator Huffines is a very good conservative. It doesn't mean that we agree on everything, and it certainly doesn't mean that we agree on issues related to developments. See, that's the great thing about conservatism. We can disagree on issues from time to time, and we do. And we can have a good conversation. And he has never, when he's been on my show, he has never asked to talk about this because this has been going on since September of 2021. But this Huffines Development Group, or this Trilogy development, is a total development that they're saying that the total development fees paid to the city of McLendon-Chisholm will be $5.7 million, and the total annual revenue to the city will amount to $1.8 million. This is the property on which they're basically going to build this massive development. And when I say massive, I mean massive. And let me just show you what that looks like. This is the footprint of this development. It is on 898 acres. Now, people who live in McLendon-Chisholm and who are watching this are probably going to be interested to know, how does that compare to something like, I don't know, Sonoma Verde? Sonoma Verde is 509 acres. Now, Sonoma Verde has basically 1,100 homes that will be built on it. It is a little bit more than halfway built out. So there's my understanding there is 600, so it's not even half, but there's 600 homes left still to build. Now, this Huffines Trilogy development is on 898 acres with 2,188 homes planned for that location. Now, one of the things that I think is important to talk about is one of the things that was created, a false misinformation that was created by those who wanted to see me out of office, namely developers, namely people who are the big government liberals within our city, and there are many, who don't like the open spaces. Now, understand, the city of McLendon-Chisholm is a city that when I moved here and when I got on city council, when I was mayor, we had a ordinance that every home had to be on 1.5 acres. Each home had to be on 1.5 acres. And so it kind of begs the question, if that's true, then how on earth did Sonoma Verde get approved? Well, that's where I go back to, you've got to elect individuals who will work on behalf of the citizens and not the developers. Now, what happened with Sonoma Verde is very much what is happening and going to happen with Huffines, the Trilogy development that we're talking about. Now, I had done a show last year, in 2021, that claimed that this Trilogy development was going to be a pit. I don't know that I still don't think that I'm outside of the barn on that. I still think there is a real possibility that this will turn out to be a pit, but right now it is a mud. Now I'm going to explain what a mud and a pit is in a minute, but those terms are very important to understand. If you are in a small community and you are trying to protect your wide open spaces, a more rural lifestyle, as I was doing as mayor of the city of McLendon-Chisholm and as a member of city council, you need to understand the problems with PIDs and MUDs. The city of Rockwall, for instance, will not allow any PID or any MUD inside its city limits, period. There's a reason, because they are one great big problem, not just for the city, but especially for those who live inside those PIDs and MUDs. And the state legislature is beholden to developers, which is why MUDs and PIDs and developers have so much power in the state of Texas. Let me give you an example, and let me share with you what happened when I was mayor. Actually, it started when I was on city council right before, and then I became mayor, was appointed by the city council unanimously. For this very reason, we had considered just leaving the seat vacant, but we needed someone who could kind of lead the way and be a spokesperson and be a negotiator with the city of Rockwall on something. So let me go back, and I want to show you, if you are watching on the Bunker Cam. If you're not watching on the Bunker Cam, I'll explain and try to detail what is being shown. And you can always go back on Rumble or Facebook or YouTube and watch this show for yourself, and you can see what I'm talking about. But I'm going to highlight one area of this map. I have a map up, and it shows the footprint of Sonoma Verde and Huffines Trilogy development. Well, if you notice, there's something called Zeitlin Capital Mud Municipal Utility District. Now there's three parcels, and there are three different distinct owners of those properties, and they were all working in conjunction with one another to create this mud. You see, it's right across from Sonoma Verde. Now, that 4,000 acres happened to be inside the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because the boundaries of any city has an ETJ that extends beyond its boundaries. I think it's about a mile for cities, the general law city, or maybe, I think it's half a mile for general law cities, which is what McLendon-Chisholm is. And for home rule cities like Rockwall and Heath and Fate and Royce City, their boundary, their ETJ is much larger. It's I think it's around 2.5 miles, 2 to 2.5 miles. Now I'm just regardless, it doesn't matter. A home rule city has a greater ETJ. So the question then becomes, how did that, which is all in blue, this 4,000 acres, how did 4,000 acres that are not on the border, just a portion of it is actually joined to the border of the city, how did that 4,000 acres come to be inside the city's ETJ in the first place? Well, it became that way because you had individuals on city council and a mayor, former Mayor Mike Donegan, one of the most corrupt mayors our city has ever seen, one of the most dishonest mayors our city has ever seen. And that's saying a lot, because I don't know that there's anyone more dishonest than Gary Moody, but he was close. Now, when you look at that, if you look at Sonoma Verde, how did that get to pass? Well, thank you, Mike Donegan. Mike Donegan made that deal, and then you have this mud this 4,000 acres. Now, it's not a mud when it's just ETJ. How did that ETJ get in there? Thank you, Mike Donegan. Because he was making plans behind closed doors with developers, with these landowners to create another Sonoma Verde. Now, this 4,000 acres that is in our ETJ, Zeitlin Capital basically submitted a proposal that they were going to put a mud in our ETJ. The problem with that is if it's in our ETJ, then the city of McLendon-Chisholm is obligated to certain things. And it becomes the burden of the city of McLendon-Chisholm to facilitate and to allow things to happen. There's, in fact, a general law type A city back in 2018 had absolutely no power over its ETJ, zero, except for the right to subdivide, which, by the way, is a misnomer because the idea that it can subdivide and it has that there's some power in subdivision is a joke, because ultimately a developer says, here's how I want these things subdivided. And case law demonstrates that cities that try to buck those subdivisions are put through the ringer in court. So there is no power that a general law type A city has over its ETJ. So the developers, the landowners basically were going to create a MUD so that they could develop. And inside that was going to be a massive apartment complex, was going to be small lot homes. And what we see with Huffines Trilogy development with 2,188 homes would have been four times that amount. It was going to be a massive, massive development. And the city of McLendon-Chisholm could do nothing about it. Now, what's interesting now is you're hearing the current mayor, the tyrant mayor, Keith Short, who likes to tell people we have no control over what goes in it. But they're about to annex a good portion of the property that is currently in its ETJ, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But that was true for us. And so what did we do? We held an open meeting. We let citizens and citizens outside the city come and talk. And I had proposed an idea after we had basically met with an attorney that was specifically, who focuses solely on land and who understands land very well. And we were in a closed door meeting, executive session for about 3 hours with this attorney getting legal advice, specifically for legal advice. And that is and we played different scenarios. What if this? What if that? Could we do this? Could we do that? And we were looking at the fact that if we tried to fight this development group, this development, then we would be looking at at minimum $300,000 burden on the taxpayers of McLendon-Chisholm to fight it. And the results would be the same. We would lose that fight. Ultimately, what it would do would be to delay any action that was taken. So I proposed, what if we gave that property that is inside our ETJ, and what if we gave that property to the city of Rockwall? Because the city of Rockwall adjoins that property too. If we were to, can we give an ETJ to another city? And the answer to that is yes, you can. Now, why would we do that? Why would we take this piece of property that is seemingly so valuable? Why would we hand it over to the city of Rockwall? Well, it's a very simple answer. The answer is that in 2018, a city that was home rule had the right to involuntarily annex any portion of its ETJ into its city. And so we knew, number one, Rockwall would not allow MUDs or PIDs. And so we threw that scenario out, and then we told the citizens about that idea. Here's what we're planning to do, because what we were running against is a woman named Misty Ventura. Misty Ventura is the attorney. She was the attorney for all three of the landowners that owned these properties. She represented all of them. And according to our attorney, she was the best of the best. She knew how to make the lives of any city as miserable as possible. She is someone who is as cunning and smart, and she is unassuming. Her demeanor is very unassuming, but she says things and she does things, and she knows how to work the system. She's been doing it for years. In fact, I have run up to next developer after developer, met many over the last few years. And whenever I mention the name Misty Ventura, everyone knows exactly who she is. And she then she's very unassuming. So she creates this illusion that she's just very innocent, and she's just doing what's right, what's lawful, which is a crock. She is an attorney, by the way. She is giving you her legal opinion when she spouts off, which she does all the time, and she did for the city of McLendon-Chisholm recently with this Huffines Trilogy development. She's giving you her legal opinion. She is not a judge, and so what happens is Misty Ventura is basically confronting us and saying, "Here's the deal, guys. We don't have to play ball. We don't have to play ball with you at all, but we want to. We want to work with you." So when she came to our town hall meeting and she asked to speak, I let her speak. And of course, she spewed these ideas. She said that they want to work with us, the property owners. Here's the thing: an attorney cannot make any decisions, cannot answer any questions without the consent of his or her clients. They are prejudicial in their opinion, by the way. An attorney who is working on behalf of, in this case, landowners, is completely and totally prejudicial. They have to be or they could lose their license as an attorney. She is not there to work on behalf of the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm or for the city of McLendon-Chisholm, or for any other city that she confronts, by the way. Because folks, if you're facing Misty Ventura, let me remind you, she is an advocate, a prejudiced advocate for her clients, as she should be. She is very good at what she does. And so she came to our town hall and said, the owners want to work with you. And I started asking her questions, which she could not answer any. Why? Because she has to consult with her clients. And that's when I said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. We'll invite the landowners and we'll talk to them one-on-one. We will have a meeting so that we can determine whether or not what they're saying and doing is the right thing. And so the city council allowed me and another member, appointed me as mayor and another member of city council, Scott Turnbull, to speak on behalf of the council, because we can't have a closed door meeting with a developer with a quorum present. That would be a violation of Texas law. It would negate any action we took, and it would be actionable. Any action we took behind closed doors as a council could be challenged in a court because they're standing to do so. Any action taken as a result of that meeting can be challenged based upon legal standing. Number one, the legal standing that it is illegal to have a walking quorum and to meet behind closed doors in conference with a walking quorum. And two, case law has demonstrated that cities who engage in this action will lose the right to uphold any decision they've made in those situations. Oh, and now Misty Ventura, who I'm sure is watching this show, she's not stupid. Misty Ventura will challenge that. She will offer a legal opinion, which is her right. She's not giving legal advice. She's simply stating, and she will try to make an argument against what I'm saying. But as it was explained to me by both the district attorney of Rockwall County, Kenda Culpepper, who seemed to believe that I could be that I could have violated Texas Open Meetings Act by speaking about something during an open session that wasn't on the agenda. She came to me and said, "There's a complaint about you speaking about things that are not on the agenda." I said, "So I can't talk about the Dallas Cowboys?" "No, you can't." I thought she was kidding. She wasn't kidding. I can't talk about anything that's not on the agenda. Now, Misty Ventura will try to make what I've just said into something that it's not. What I've said is empirically, irrefutably, and incontrovertibly true. Why am I emphasizing this point? Well, because this is exactly what happened with Trilogy Group, as I'll talk about in a minute. But what happened with, I want to finish what I'm talking about with this 4,000 acres. There were citizens and non-citizens, a lot of non-citizens who were at the meeting who thought it was crazy. They didn't pay taxes, but they thought it was crazy that we would give away this 4,000 acres, even though we had no power whatsoever over it. It meant that the mud could move forward. Here's the thing, the city of Rockwall could provide water, and that's the key. You cannot create a mud or a PID if a city can provide water. If the city can provide water, McLendon-Chisholm doesn't. McLendon-Chisholm gets its water from RCH, actually from Rockwall. Rockwall is the water carrier that RCH gets its water from. And water is a key point in these fights, by the way. Those of you in small towns who are trying to fight Misty Ventura and fighting these developments, you think about water and make water the key point, because it is detrimental to your community when you allow these large developments to come in. So what did we do? Well, I met with the mayor of Rockwall. I never met with the city council of Rockwall. I just met with the mayor, Jim Pruitt. I told him my idea. He thought that makes absolute sense. He thought it was pretty smart, but he said, we can't just up and annex this. If you give it to us, we can't up and annex it. We can't, because we've got to do our due diligence. I said, that's fine. I said, at least if the city of Rockwall has it in its ETJ, well, Misty Ventura and the landowners are going to realize that they're now playing with big boys who have big lawyers and people who actually know what the heck they're doing. And the city of Rockwall can decide to involuntarily annex that ETJ, and if they do, then their hope of a MUD or a PID goes away. Now, understand, folks, a MUD, a municipal utility district, is basically a government unto itself, where the developer reigns supreme. And if you look at the development agreement between Trilogy Development and the city of McLendon-Chisholm, you will see that the only party to have absolute control is Trilogy, not the city of McLendon-Chisholm. So that's what's so funny about the city of McLendon-Chisholm entering into a development agreement with Trilogy and Misty Ventura, their attorney. So we did give, by the way, that land to the city of Rockwall. And many people castigated me for doing that, saying we gave away a piece of property without getting anything back. That's the liberals. And by the way, who were those people? That included Keith Short, the tyrant mayor Keith Short, current mayor. That includes lying Lorna Kippett and her lying rhino husband. That includes Trudy Westner, who's currently serving on the city council. All of these people, they said we were crazy. We gave something away that was somehow of value, and we got nothing back for it, despite the fact that state law establishes that a city cannot trade a ETJ property for anything. Doing so is a violation of the law. If you do something like that, that breaks Texas law. They don't care about that. They didn't care. So what did the city of Rockwall do with that ETJ? Well, by the way, we knew that in 2019, the state legislature was very likely to change the rules as it relates to ETJs and a home rule city's ability to involuntarily annex its ETJ. So we knew we had to move fast. The city of Rockwall also knew it needed to move fast. Well, the city of Rockwall saw all of the pitfalls, all of the problems, and it was voluminous. I got a call from the mayor at the time, Mayor Pruitt, and I was out of office by this time, and he just basically called and said, "Listen, here, I'm just going to give you the heads up. We're not going to annex that property." And I was crestfallen when he said that. I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because it is such a bad deal for the people of Rockwall. We would have to build an entirely new water tower. There were the infrastructure costs alone are outrageous." I said, "So what are you going to do?" He said, "We are going to actually release that ETJ from the city of Rockwall. We don't want any part of it." And it's brilliant. It was a brilliant move on the city of Rockwall's part, because now this development, while there are plans to move forward, this development can't move forward. And do you know why? Because they can't get water. No one will supply water to their MUD, to their municipal utility district. They are all on their own. And why is that? The city of McLendon-Chisholm was actually without water for an entire day because we are out of water. Now, just remember, folks, this Sonoma Verde has 600 more homes to go in. We're already out of water. In fact, the city of Rockwall has made it clear to Heath, to the city of Heath, and to the city of McLendon-Chisholm, we both receive our water from RCH through the city of Rockwall, that, look, folks, you've already exceeded your contractual agreed amount of water. You cannot take any more water. We've got to pull back. And so when you think about this Trilogy development and the thoughtlessness of the mayor and city council to approve this, it is shocking, to say the least. How could they approve this? What I'd like to do is, if you're watching on the bunker cam, I would like to give you a kind of a zoomed in look at this development, and kind of give you, if you live in the city of McLendon-Chisholm, gives you a sense of where this is. Now, I've done a show before. I've shown you many of these, but I'm adding a couple of things to it. You've seen, this is basically where this development is going to go. And when you look at it, you can see where McLendon-Chisholm City Hall is, for instance, Heath High School, Kane Middle School, and Pullen Elementary. It kind of gives you a sense of, for reference sake, so that you can kind of get your bearings on where this massive development is. Now, when I had the bond folks, people who were advocating for a school bond, I asked them if the bond that they were proposing for the growth in our school in Rockwall RISD, if it is accounting for a development, and I specifically asked Trilogy development, and the answer was no. They were not including that because Trilogy development had not been conceived when, or had been considered when the plan the bond plan was put in place. So as you can tell, Heath High School, Kane, and Pullen are going to be maxed out, are going to be at their limit, beyond their limits. And so the plan for schools has not yet been finalized or has not been yet been vetted. So how do they deal with these things? So this is 898 acres, 2,188 homes. Now, I want to highlight one thing, folks, that the city, when under little tyrant Keith Short's Tyrant Mayor Keith Short's reign, they have changed the comprehensive plan for the city. It is no longer 1.5 acres per home. It is now 1 acre per home, despite the fact that the survey of citizens asking them what they preferred. Do they want to keep the 1.5 acre minimum per home site? And overwhelmingly, citizens said they wanted to keep it. But Keith Short, Lying Lorna Kippett, Trudy Wester, Dan Tucker, they all voted to lower that 1.5 acres per home site to 1 acre per home site. Why? Because they don't like the wide open spaces. They think they think that more is better. That the more people you cram into a city, the better. How can I say that? Because they've actually said just the opposite. I say that because they've shown me by their actions. When you can talk all you want, and that's what a politician does. They tell you what you want to hear, but you know what they really believe when they show you what they do. So they lowered the 1.5 acres to 1 acre per home site. Now I'm showing the visual for those of you on the podcast. I'm showing the visual of this Huffines Trilogy development. It's 898 acres, and they're going to put 2,188 homes on it. So I know what you're thinking. That don't make no sense. That don't add up. How is it if it was 1 acre, 1 home per acre, then the most homes you could have on this development is 898 homes, right? Wrong. Don't forget Sonoma Verde, folks. Sonoma Verde had less than 500 acres, and you've got 1,100 homes. They're violating the comprehensive plan. Let me show you. Let me show you one more. I want to get a little bit kind of move in a little closer, if you will, and I want to show you basically the meets and bounds, if you will, of this site. And I want to highlight a couple of things. Now, here's the land, and this is the old Hodges property. I want to say something about the Hodges property. Hodges, that should sound familiar. That name, Hodges, should sound familiar to you if you lived in McLendon-Chisholm. Why? Because Nathan Hodges was a former mayor of McLendon-Chisholm. He's the mayor that resigned, where I became mayor, excuse me. When I left office and there was a vacancy on the city council, they brought Nathan Hodges back. Nathan Hodges, this is his family's property. And when I was mayor, I approached the Hodges and asked them for to sign a 529 agreement. Basically, a 529 enables a landowner to live there tax-free. Their entire acreage, tax-free. And when and only when they sell that property, it then moves into the city of McLendon-Chisholm. It becomes part of the city of McLendon-Chisholm. They agree to that. And so because a lot of it was in the ETJ. And I'm going to show you the portion that's in the ETJ. It's the largest portion of that property that's in the ETJ. But the thing is, for this development, you have to understand that there's 898 total acres, but they're only going to be building on 640 of those acres. They're going to have 2,188 homes on 640 acres. 258 acres of open spaces, including 11 acres of neighborhood parks and 6.4-mile trail system. You see how developers love to tell you, we're here to build communities. One of the owners, landowners of the 4,000 acres that we gave away, had the audacity in the meeting when Scott Turnbull and I were meeting with them to say we create communities. And I said, sir, we already have a community. And it's a great community. Why not be a part of our community and live within our structure and our systems? To which they laughed in my face. So this is the plat, but let me show you where the city portions are. You see Heath, which is in a small section. McLendon-Chisholm has two small sections of that. The overwhelming majority of this development would be inside the ETJ. Now, here's the thing. The city of Heath said absolutely no, because the city of Heath is run by a mayor, Kelson Elam, who actually, he serves the citizens. And I know that's crazy. He actually believes in serving the citizens, the people of Heath. And he doesn't want to be a puppet for developers. Yeah, Kelson Elam, the city council of Heath, they believe in protecting and in controlled growth. The city of McLendon-Chisholm doesn't. See, the city of McLendon-Chisholm, because it signed a development agreement with this developer, that development agreement states that the city of McLendon-Chisholm is going to annex the portion of the development that is in its ETJ, and it will become part of the city of McLendon-Chisholm. I was present on September 14th, 2021, when Philip Huffines, Chris Cooney, and one of their stooges was present at the city council meeting. And I stood up and told the city council that they should not move forward. As a matter of record, during citizen comments portion of the meeting, I objected to the agenda items alleging that discussion and deliberation on matters related to the proposed Trilogy development should occur in an open session. At the time of my comments, I was unaware that Mr. Huffines and Mr. Cooney would be included in, guess what, a closed-door meeting. This is empirically, factually true. It is empirically, irrefutably, and incontrovertibly true that the city of McLendon-Chisholm violated the Texas Open Meetings Act under Section 5510712 for a closed-door meeting that took place on September 14, 2021, during the official executive session portion of the meeting, which began at 7:19 p.m. and ended at 9:58 p.m., in which the mayor, city council, city administrator, city planner, city secretary, and city attorney met with Philip Huffines and Chris Cooney, the developer of the planned housing development Trilogy. They met with them behind closed doors in executive session from 8:16 p.m. to 9:47 p.m. 1 hour and 31 minutes. Where, according to the regular meeting agenda, items 1.8 and 1.2, the city attorney was supposed to consult with the city council on matters related to a development agreement and or tracts inside the city that are under consideration for a municipal utility district. Neither Mr. Huffines nor Mr. Cooney, nor the companies they represent, was included in any part or portion of the meeting's agenda. Mr. Huffines and Mr. Cooney are engaged with the current property owners that were listed in the agenda items 1.8 and 1.2, where their financial interest conflicts with the matters related to the properties highlighted in 8.1 and 8.2. What am I reading? I'm reading from a complaint that I filed with the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office on September 16th. The District Attorney's Office has never responded to this complaint. District Attorney Kenda Culpepper is complicit in this cover-up, this attempted cover-up, because now The developers, it is my understanding, are claiming they never met with the city council behind closed doors, even though it is a matter of, even though I was present, even though I have video evidence that they were there. I actually asked for, well, I've got other evidence as well, but that is an empirical fact that they were inside the meeting behind closed doors. That in and of itself negates the legal standing that Misty Ventura is going to claim that the Trilogy development has in regard to the city of Heath and the city of McLendon-Chisholm. I have handed over evidence of this violation, including the complaint that I filed with the district attorney's office, where I received confirmation that it had been received and no action was taken. It is my belief that the district attorney of Rockwall County is complicit in this. It is my belief, I don't have evidence of this, it is my belief that she contacted the city attorney, Michael Holla, who, by the way, you may want to know, this is a very disturbing thing, but the city attorney for the city of McLendon-Chisholm is facing 2 counts of manslaughter after killing 2 individuals. On January 6th, this is from the Dallas Morning News, where I get this story. On January 6th, and this was posted just a couple of weeks ago, on January 6th, a North Texas attorney who is contracted by Ferris and several other cities as legal service provider faces charges in the 2021 deaths of a father and his 5-year-old son. Michael Holla, 52, was booked into Ellis County Jail Thursday, and his bail is set to $100,000. He faces 2 counts of manslaughter. The Texas Department of Public Safety, the arresting agency, said in a press release that Holla was driving a Ford Explorer that struck and killed Ferris residents 36-year-old Edward Beltrain and his 5-year-old son, Ethan. The department said an investigation found that Holla was operating the vehicle recklessly. The crash occurred, listen to this, on November 15, 2021, according to police records. Folks, he's just now, more than a year later, being charged. Press reported at the time that the Beltrains were struck by a vehicle heading eastbound near the intersection of Farm Road 664 and Jimmy Birdwell Boulevard on the roadway, and that Mr. Holla was traveling at a rate of 96 miles an hour when he killed the father and a 5-year-old boy. Now, understand, Michael Holla, by the way, is the attorney that made it possible for Sonoma Verde to be approved, despite the fact that the comprehensive plan said 1.5 acre minimum per home site. How did he do it? By breaking the law, by violating the law. Now, Misty Ventura, what Misty Ventura loves to do is she will stand up at city council meetings. She will say, "Thank you for following the law." Misty Ventura is advocating prejudicially for her client, as she should do. You know who you won't see? You won't see Chris Cooney and Philip Huffines at these meetings anymore. No, they send Misty Ventura, because Misty Ventura, even though she has no ability to answer questions, she tells people, if you have questions, call me and I will answer them. She will not answer them, not truthfully, not wholly. When I say truthfully, let me hedge that and just simply say she will give you the half-truth that her client wants you to hear. She will not give you the whole truth. The Bible says the first to plead their case seems reasonable until another comes and examines them. And when you start to examine what is going on with the Trilogy Development Group and this Trilogy development in the city of McLendon-Chisholm, your eyes will become wide open to what is actually happening. The citizens of McLendon-Chisholm, who were told by by the tyrant mayor Keith Short when he was running for office, and lying Lorna Kippett when she was running for office, and Trudy Westner when she was running for office, and Dan Tucker when he was running for office, that they care about our open spaces. Really? If they cared, then they would never have gone along with this development. They would have had the courage to do what I did when I was mayor. And the members of city council, the Scott Turnbull, Adrian Balcom, Gary Lovell, what we did, Jim Herron. And that is to say to these developers, screw you. We're not violating the citizens' trust, even though. And of course, thanks to Keith Short, Tyrant Mayor Keith Short, and lying Lorna Kippett and Trudy Wester and the like, and Dan Tucker, people got the misimpression that somehow we were working against them. Folks, if you live in McLendon-Chisholm, you think that I'm those who are watching who think that I'm the son of Satan, I beg of you to consider all of the facts before you make judgment, because folks, look at what your current mayor and city council have done to you. They've sold you down the river to the highest bidder. And isn't it interesting? Keith Short sure seems to be enjoying life right now as an unpaid mayor. Must be nice. Should there be an investigation should the district attorney of Rockwall County call for an investigation? Absolutely, she should, but she won't. Because again, as I said before, she's complicit. It is my belief that she contacted the attorney for the city of McLendon-Chisholm and had them destroy evidence. Let me say that again. It is my belief that I can say for a fact that the city of McLendon-Chisholm did destroy key evidence. But it is my belief that the only reason they did that is because I alerted the district attorney. I made a complaint, and in that complaint detailed the evidence that I was seeking. And it was a matter of open records, a public record. And that public record, that information somehow disappeared. So it is now up to individuals on the council to lie during deposition. And eventually, here's the thing that I've learned a long time ago. You can three people can keep a secret as long as two of them are dead. When it comes to the law, when it comes to breaking the law, there's a lot of people who may go by the wayside because they're a threat to the Huffines development people. And they're a threat to the tyrant mayor, Keith Short. If people start dying in McLendon-Chisholm who happen to be connected to this, then you know exactly what's happening. And I'm making a prediction that anyone who speaks to the attorneys or speaks to the authorities about this, about the actions that have been taken, if anyone has the courage to do that, you need to watch your back, because your life will be in jeopardy. Because we're not talking about small money. No, Trilogy Development is claiming that it will bring $1 billion with a B as in boy, as in Bunker Bob, $1 billion to the city of McLendon-Chisholm. That's what this is worth. Folks, it's a dangerous world out there. But you know what? The city of McLendon-Chisholm has a plan, and their plan is a police department. That's right. The city of McLendon-Chisholm wants to start its own police department, and tomorrow night on the agenda is a police department. The most insane idea that has come out of the city of McLendon-Chisholm since, hey, let's build a firehouse for $4 million because we have the $4 million rather than the $2.5 million that at least one of the contractors said they could build it for, the same firehouse. So the city wants to start a police department. Now, just as an aside, if you're a citizen of McLendon-Chisholm, and if you're in a small town, small community, think about this. You have a sheriff's department. The sheriff's department, when I became mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, one of the first people I met with was Harold Evanson. He was the sheriff of Rockwall County back then. And one of the things that we talked about was public safety, was was law enforcement. What should we do? I said, do you ever foresee a time where the city of McLendon-Chisholm would ever need to start its own police department? And he laughed. He said, that is the most ludicrous idea that I have ever heard. The city of Royce City regrets starting its own police department. And look at all of the cities surrounding the home rule cities that have their own police departments. They are a drain. The sheriff's department in the city of McLendon-Chisholm, by the way, can provide as many dedicated officers and patrol cars as are necessary. Remember that word necessary? It is the argument of tyrants, is the creed of slaves. But if the city of McLendon-Chisholm actually were to need, and I'll say this, if the city of McLendon-Chisholm moves forward with annexing this, and by the way, if you are on the city council and you're watching this, you should object to this based upon the fundamental reason that you believe that this matter was approved, that the MUD was approved based upon an illegal, an unauthorized, a patently illegal meeting with the developers and the city council. There you have standing, and Ms. DiVentura will warn you, you have to do it. You have to approve. The development agreement says you have to approve. And Michael Holla, the city attorney, the man who is out on $100,000 bail for killing a 36-year-old father and his 5-year-old son, will tell you the same thing. You have to do it. And the answer to that is, you don't have to do anything. This is America. Heck no. If you had a heart, if you had just a scintilla of heart, you would say, no, I don't have to do anything like that. If we want to take this to court, let's go to court. And I guarantee you the city of Heath will join with you, and we would work together, and we'd finally work together. The two cities would finally work together. But the city of McLendon-Chisholm wants to start its own police department because there are people who are stupid enough, and I mean stupid, to believe that if you have more police, they will stop crime. That police stop crime. They don't. Police do not stop crime. They don't prevent crime. Now, the presence of a police officer, let's say if a police officer were parked outside of your car, outside of your home, it would deter someone from breaking into your home. I would argue that deterrent is there. I did presidential advance for President George Bush 41, George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 41. And so I worked, when you do presidential advance, you work directly with the Secret Service, and everything we do is choreographed and timed. One of the things that the Secret Service embedded in all of us who did advance was that the efforts that they are taking to sanitize, what they call sanitize an environment, to make it safe for the president to come in, understand that there is nothing that can prevent someone from killing the president. They know that no matter how well they sanitize a location. That's why they go through with bomb-sniffing dogs. They do everything they can to mitigate and to prevent anything bad from happening, but they themselves recognize that's why they stand out in front of the president while he's speaking in a sanitized location. Because even still, someone could somehow, some way, get in and do harm to the president. There is no such thing. You will be no safer. The citizens of McLendon-Chisholm will be no safer. None. Not a scintilla safer if it has its own police department. What we will be is we will be a lot lighter in our pocketbooks, because the cost of having our own police department, the administrative costs alone, are astronomical in comparison to contracting with the Rockwall County Sheriff's Department, who they handle all of the administrative issues. If the car breaks down, they take care of that. They take care of the insurance. They take care of the training. They take care of the legal issues that accompany every police officer that goes on a beat. They have They have a legal team. And when that officer has to show up in court and you pay that officer and all of the things that go along with starting a police department or having a police department, a sheriff's department can provide all of the things that the city of McLendon-Chisholm needs at a fraction of the cost. And I would argue at a higher level, because these are dedicated officers. These are dedicated sheriff's deputies. And by the way, we don't have Trilogy yet. One day we will have Trilogy if we can't find anyone on the city council who's willing to stand up and say, enough. I'm not okay with this. I'm not going to move forward with this. I'm not going to vote on this. I'm not going to vote for this. I believe that this whole thing had begun based upon a violation of Texas state law, and therefore we have standing to say no to the entire development agreement and reconsider the entire agreement. Will that cause the city of McLendon-Chisholm to find itself in a lawsuit? You bet. But that's, my friend, is why the Texas Municipal League, why the city is a member of the Texas Municipal League, because that membership pays for the legal team to defend a city against a lawsuit. Any member of the city council, by the way, that acts in accordance with their fiduciary obligation, if you believe that a crime has been committed, by the way, if you have reason to believe, and it's reasonable to believe that a crime has been committed, by the way, in McLendon-Chisholm, when this developer and Chris Cooney and their lackey met with behind closed doors for an hour and 31 minutes and came out of that meeting and nothing was said. And then when the MUD was approved, no discussion occurred. By the way, that's another point, that I believe it was the next meeting that they approved the MUD. No discussion, no debate was had. Mr. Huffines nor Mr. Cooney were there to answer questions or deliberated or discussed in any way, shape, manner, or form. So if I was a member of city council, number one, I know that I have a fiduciary right, I have a legal right, I have an American right to say no to anything I don't believe is right. And if Misty Ventura, which she likes to do, threatens to say that you'll be held personally liable, or anyone were ever to say, hey, as a member of city council, if you don't vote for something that you quote unquote have to vote for, that you'll be personally liable, then ask to see their bar card. Get their bar card number, State Bar of Texas, because that they would be then an attorney. Get their license number. Misty Ventura has a bar card, and if Misty Ventura insinuates that the city of McLendon-Chisholm can be, a member of city council can be personally liable for their actions, Misty Ventura will have a complaint against her with the Texas Bar Association, and the Texas Bar Association takes the legal standing in the state of Texas very seriously and takes threats by any attorney very seriously. I'm absolutely appalled. Well, I'm not surprised, but I'm appalled that the city attorney of McLendon-Chisholm, Michael Holla, a man who is out on $100,000 bail for killing a 36-year-old father and his 5-year-old son, is still on the payroll, that my tax dollars are funding this man who should be behind bars and who has been out of jail for over a year while the investigation takes place. Folks, I'm telling you, the legal community is a disgraceful group of people. The fact that it took over a year, November of 2021, and he's not being charged until January 6th of 2023. Folks, there is no justice in America anymore. That we have a legal system, but not a justice system. But we can fight back and we can say no. And that's exactly what I hope the citizens of McLendon-Chisholm will do tomorrow night. Come out to the City Hall and speak their mind and say that Tyrant Mayor Keith Short, you hate the First Amendment of the Constitution. You limit our freedom of speech to 5 minutes. When I was mayor, we created rules of decorum. By the way, folks, Mayor Short likes to talk about rules of decorum. Rules of decorum are still in place. Mr. Short has never read the rules of decorum that we adopted when I was mayor, because Robert's Rules of Order is parliamentary procedure. Rules of decorum are specific to the governing body that we adopted. Those rules of decorum, by the way, have never been amended since I've left office. And Mr. Short has never read them, because those rules of decorum that are still in place legally state that any citizen can speak for as long as they wish, so long as they're not filibustering. Citizen of McLendon-Chisholm. Now, if you try to violate that, if you try to go past your 5 minutes, you will be taken out of City Hall at the point of a gun. How do I know? Because it happened to me. Tyrant mayors are dangerous. They're dangerous to the liberty of people. Remember what Thomas Jefferson said, folks. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. Folks, let's get liberty back in the city of McLendon-Chisholm and back in Texas. I will see you tomorrow. Blessings to you all. Bye-bye.